Welcome back everyone. So this is going to be our 8th video of the research chapter series. So far we have covered introduction, literature review, how to choose a research topic, methodology and findings and analysis and pilot survey, main sections and main chapters. So now we are in the most important chapter or the section. So this is conclusion and recommendation where you have to recommend based on what you have completed so far. So we will go and discuss what are the things that you need to focus and what are the areas that you need to cover in this part. Go and see. Okay, so this is going to be our very first part of the conclusion and recommendation chapter. The first, you need to start off with review of objectives. What are these objectives? We have discussed about this in the introduction chapter. Remember, we had like 4 objectives: to conduct a primary research, to conduct a literature review section and stuff like that. So we had 4 objectives. So now in this section, you are going to say, okay, this is how I achieved it. This is how I achieved those 4 objectives. Now, for example, so first you had like we had 4 objectives. In the first one, it was about critically evaluating literature pertaining to 2 main variables. Now, maybe under this you can have a table, simple table, and you can just mention the objective reference, like objective 1, 2, 3, 4, and here you can say, so in the chapter 2, you have used XYZ theory related to motivation and few other factors, maybe you can mention them, and you have conducted that secondary research, like talking about literature and bringing literature and referencing, and that's how you have completed that objective. So this is about how did you achieve it, and here you have to mention under the second chapter, which is your literature review chapter, you have analyzed, critically evaluated such theories, models, frameworks, whatever the theories that you have used. Here you can mention slightly, not like this is like a very simple sentence, like maybe you can have 2-3 sentences under here. How did you achieve your objectives? So the first one is this. Likewise, you can have, for example, another one, the third one. This was about primary research, to conduct a primary research. That was your third objective we have mentioned in the first chapter, introduction chapter. Here you can say you have conducted primary research using 100 sample. So out of that you got 80 responses, and based on that you have concluded your findings and analysis. So that is about third objective. How did you achieve it? Maybe you can mention that part. Okay. Fourth one, of course, you have concluded. Here you are recommending based on what you have achieved. Okay. So things like that you can mention. This is about your objective, same as your introduction chapter, and this is the recommendation that you have to. So not the recommendation. Here you have to say how did you achieve it. Okay. So that is about review objectives. Mention that objective you have used, copy paste, or maybe you can even say objective 1, 2, 3, 4 and explain how did you achieve it. Okay. Second one, the limitations. It's very simple. You can talk about any limitation or challenges that you have to face while you're completing this part, this project. For example, time management, maybe the sample size. So if imagine the company that you have chosen, they had about 10,000 employees, but your sample is just 100. So you can mention the sample size is not sufficient. It is not credible to come to a conclusion based on 100 sample where the organization has about more than 10-20,000 people. Right? Things like that you can mention. Challenging, how did you balance both work plus academic work, like this project, right? So was it so hard for you to get the consent from the company? So things like that. Here you can mention any limitation. That's up to you. So you can here mention. Okay. It could be a theoretical aspect or maybe a personal thing, that just like I mentioned, time management thing. So right, that's about the second part. The third part, future developments. It's very simple. Now, what can be improved? Opposite of this. So if you had said 100 sample was not enough, you can here mention it is better to have 100 instead of 100, 500 sample. In a future research, you can expand your sample size. Okay, maybe you can say in terms of the time management, you can say based on the Gantt chart, you can follow your work. You can follow up with your own practices, work, and everything. So likewise, you can link these future developments into your limitation, what you have mentioned on the limitations, and you can say, okay, it's better if you could do this in future, if you can do this in future. So things like that. So it's these are like limitation, future development, what can be improved in the next research when you're doing maybe when you're at the final year, or maybe when you're doing your masters, what can be improved based on what you have completed so far. Yeah, so that is about that. It's very simple. Review of objective, limitations, future development, and there are a few more sections that we will quickly have a look at them as well. Okay, now the next part is recommendations, the most important part. Now, in our example, it was motivation and staff turnover, right? So now, so far we have covered many sections, many chapters, we have done the analysis and everything, and we know this is where the issue is. These are the areas that has to be improved. Now, you have some idea about your project and the areas that you have focused so far. Okay, now it's time for you to do the recommendation, and when you're doing the recommendation, it's very important for you to make it more practical and realistic. The two words, practical and realistic. Again, I'm saying practical and realistic. It has to be practical and realistic. You need to feel that you are actually doing this project for your own company, the company that you're working for, right? So in such way only you need to give recommendation where the CEO, the management can implement them in real life. Okay, remember that. Okay, I would always recommend you to do a table to update your recommendation part. Maybe you can have a small paragraph explaining what are the things that you highlighted and what are the key findings, not findings like findings of the analysis, not the key findings of the project. So key findings of the analysis, and then you can come to the table. In this table, I would recommend that you should have 3 columns. 1, concern area, for the weak area, the area that you have found out where there's an issue, right? Here, the recommendation. Here you have to give the recommendation. And here, impact, the third and the last column, impact or the benefit. If you implement this strategy, what's going to be the impact to the company? It should be a benefit. That's why you're recommending it. Okay, now let's take an example and explain this. Concern. Suppose now our topic was motivation and turnover. Imagine I got to know that there are issues in terms of salary. So salary scales are very low. That's why people are leaving different companies, right? So the concern area, salary scale or the range of designation in terms of salaries. So that's where you have to mention the concern. Okay, that is what your concern is at the very first one. Okay, so what is going to be the recommendation? To increase the salary. Simple as that. No, even though that's the obvious answer, you need to give them a strategy, not a normal recommendation. Recommendations are always should be backed up with strategies. Now, without saying, I will give you an example for you to understand in a very simple way. So the answer should be, of course, to increase salaries, right? That's the obvious answer, because people are leaving because they don't have salary, proper salary scale for the work that they're doing, right? So recommendation should be to increase the salary, just like I said. But you need to recommend that in a way that your management can implement that. For example, if I was you, I would say, okay, set KPIs for each and every employee, and after every 6 months, if they achieve at least 70% of the target of the KPI, 10% increment to his or her basic salary after every 6 months. So that's more like a strategy. It is not just a vague recommendation that you are giving. It can be implemented by the management, and it's going to be a win-win situation. The more sales, let's say you're talking about sales manager, he will try to bring more sales because he knows that 10% increment is certain if he achieves like at least 70% of the mark, right? So that can be implemented. It's a win-win situation for the company as well as for the employee, right? So that is your recommendation. You need to give them a strategy to implement that recommendation, not just to increase the salaries of the employees. You can't do that. It's not practical and realistic. Remember the two words that I have told you: realistic and practical. Okay, that's your recommendation part. And what's going to be the impact or the benefit? Obviously, they can retain employees for next few years. The experts or like valuable employees can be retained for a few more years ahead. So that's going to ultimately help the organization to grow and expand their business. So things like that you can mention. Impact is very easy. And also, it's better if you can back up your recommendation and the impact with citations. Okay, maybe someone else also has said it's better to give increments based on KPIs. You have seen this in this journal, and you quickly bring that article, Kamal 2024, cite it, and this recommendation will be more valuable because someone else also has said the same thing. So that's how you aim for bonus marks. So that is about the recommendation part. So that's how you complete your recommendation based on your analysis. And remember, don't ever come up with very new recommendation. All these recommendations should be based on your analysis. So if you did not find out any issues in a particular area, don't try to give them a very new recommendation. All this should be linked to your analysis. Okay, so that is your recommendation. It's very simple. And then the reflective statement. What did you gain? Experience and future plans. So by doing this project, what did you gain personally? And what are the things that you had to experience? So things like that you can mention in reflective statements. Most of the universities let you write in first party, like the way that we talk. You can use that language in this part only, not the other sections. So you can just focus on first party here, but again, be careful with the assessment guideline. So here what you can do is, what you can update is that, what did you gain? You maybe after SPSS you got to know how to do statistical data and converting to charts and everything. So that's a skill that you gain by doing this final project. And experience, you have improved your time management skill while doing work plus this project. So things like that you can mention. Future plans, you have an idea to do masters soon after this. So things like that you can mention under reflective statement. And also the final part, the references and index citation. Make sure all the references are updated based on your referencing style. Could be Harvard referencing or APO, whatever the style that they have given you to update in your final project. So make sure you follow that. All the citations should be tallied with in-text citations. In-text citations that you have used in your main part of the project, like the body of your project, should have the in-text citation linked to it. Okay. Randomly, these markers, tutors will quickly scroll down and go to that particular reference. If they can't find that referencing in index citations that you have updated in introduction section, and you will have an inquiry. So make sure this is also one of the important area. This is also called bibliography in some universities. References list, index citation, and bibliography. So all these three terms are the same thing. So make sure you update this as per your style, referencing style. So that is about that, and we have one small section, abstract, and also the viva part. So we will be discussing about the abstract. So abstract, even though it should be in the introduction part, just before the introduction part, we should write that abstract at the final part once you complete everything. So in the next video we are going to talk about the abstract. We'll see you there.